Alright, so we are good to go for this live stream after a while. Let me confirm if the mics and everything is good to go. I think there's an echo at my end. So this looks correct. Just lower the volume so that it just doesn't get too much crowded. Hopefully that is much better. Let's lower this and increase this to the max volume that we can have. Yeah, it does usually have the spike in noise, but I think it is pretty good. Let's see how well that goes. See how that improves. There's that's gain that will try to increase it. Hopefully it doesn't increase the noise as well. Right, let's decrease this and let's try to increase this one so that it doesn't have that much. That looks cool. There's still a little muffled voice down there. Let's gain. Let's decrease the gain a little bit. Compression, the noise suppression. Decrease the open threshold. It hopefully will decrease the noise if there are any. And if you just lower it this down, that should be perfect, right? That sounds good. Let's get started with whatever I have planned for today. So let me start here. So what are we going to do is we're going to create an LLM interface. You can still hear a little bit of noise, so bear with a little bit. If it's not there right now, I think it should be good. It is much better. Let's go with this. So if you know light LLM or at least line graph, line chain, I would say. So these are like Python specific uh, libraries that you can use to query different like LLM models and uh, providers. So with this, what you can do is you can just provide some API keys and you can call and configure different LLM providers. For instance, like completion. So the completion is usually a endpoint that you use to get sort of the normal completion, right? Like the text-based completion. So this one, if you call this and provide the model along with the prompt, like this is a much more sophisticated like way to prompt LLM model with the actual message. So you provide the message and which model you want to query, and it will basically give you the output. So this is a like a what we call a unified way to access different models. And right now, like there are a lot of libraries getting generated for Python specifically because Python is very easy to use and it has been like very on the uh, it has been like almost used widely adopted in LLMs as well. So Python is very used, but I also see Golang struggling with this. So there's no Golang LLM API interface for this. Like there's no way where you can like just get started with like with a LLM and use Golang specific native ecosystems to leverage that. There is Golang Chain Go, but I don't think it is like very much up to date, and they usually don't support many models as they do in Open Router, I believe. So that kind of limitations are still holding this Golang's ecosystem. So if we see here, this is LangChain Go. It is 2 weeks ago, so it might be not maintained properly. Not saying it's bad, but uh, the API reference. Let's check out the API reference, the LLMs that they are using. So if there is Open Router, which doesn't seem to look like they have, that looks in a bit of a concern, right? Because if there is Open Router, then you can just call any LLM that is available on Open Router, and Open Router uh, has almost all LLMs. I, if I know it correctly, even the latest ones which are not yet released or are in preview are available over here. So if an library or an interface allows you to query Open Router, then it opens a wide possibilities of querying LLMs. So that is one problem with the Golang ecosystem. Uh, there's no like way to uh, there's no standard way of querying LLMs. You have to manually write the STPI like wrappers or handle those APIs manually. So that is what I am looking to do here with the this one, and I've been thinking about it quite some time now, and I've been delaying it, but I'm here and trying to build this one piece at a time. So what Yaman doing what I want to do first is break down the components that most of the other providers uh, expose to the developers or users. The first one is basically having some sort of way of completion, right? The text page completion. This is what you want to list down, but this is like little far-fetched from what we have. We want to first provide the list of providers and models, right? And then the completion will basically take care of the text-based thing. Let's call it text-based. This will have all sorts of completions over here, and this could be, I think, two-way. We can have just this also could have chat. uh, like you need to maintain some sort of chat history. And I don't think there is just one shot thing here, but I might be wrong here, and I don't know the nitty-gritties of light LLM. Then we have other things like embeddings, and there are other things as well, like with tokenization. I want to work specifically on tokenization before I work uh, anything on this. So we'll go with tokenization after this, and then the embeddings. Because once you have tokenization, the embeddings becomes really easy. Tokenization, whatever the spelling is, don't get beyond that. Embeddings, is it not? Whatever. Whatever. So these are the core features of this thing, and uh, yeah, this is what we would be taking a look into this API. Maybe these are the different like components of the library. I'm not sure about having all of them in a single library, but we can plan it accordingly. But for now, the first one is being able to uh, like uh, configure configure the model name, or you can say model or provider and model name. This is the convention Light LLM uses. I'll stick to that as well. Configure the provider and model name, so you can just pass in which model and the provider is the company that you want to use, and yeah, then you can just provide the prompt. It could be a message, it could be a chat history, existing chat history, or it could be any form of text content. And then we need to query the response. And here the what do you call the complexity gets a little tricky. Optionally, provide the tools or functions. So what we need to do is we need to provide a list of functions or tool calls, like actual tools to the LLM, like in the configuration somewhere, so that the LLM knows that these are the tools that uh, it has at its disposal, so that while making the request, it can uh, use certain like uh, provide this library the mechanism to not mechanism but uh, provide which function to call and along with parameters so that it can actually call, and then in the further responses we can generate the response accordingly. So this is one complexity that we need to add in the later stages, but for now we will uh, skip it because uh, this is the thing that I wanted to create this in the first place, because all providers use like their own wrappers to avoid this uh, problem of singular interface. So not all providers use the function calling bit in similar way. That is why MCP or other other techniques, other protocols are being followed. So in that way, the providers are getting a little um standardized in how the function calling has to be handled on their interfaces. So yeah, that is one pain point in LLMs right now. I think over the last few months, it has been quite a standard to support function calling, but I think I think 3 or 4 months back, it was not quite the same. And the standards of the LLMs uh, like were not up to for specifically for function calling. Right after we had like models like I think it was GPT 4.1 and Claude 3.4 or 3.7 that just nailed down the function calling bits. So that is what we want to go ahead with it. At enough of rambling, I think that has been enough for things. And yeah, let us try to first understand how light LLM does it because, or rather, let's work backwards. Let's see how we can interact with Open Router directly. So this is Open Router. If you can sign in here. Um, I want to sign in, but I want to use a different account. Yeah, let's use some different account here. Chrome keeps updating now. What is up? What is new? Get your tabs on the groups on the. Oh, we have tab groups. Is it vertical bar? That's nice. Hopefully, I'm signed in here. Yeah. Uh, this is okay. So we have this already set up. I will create a project called. I think I had given it the name of Golang. Let's call it Golang because it has LLM in it and it is Go in it, so let's call it Golang. Uh, yeah, let's start with here as well. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Package main, func main, and what I would like to do here would be to take in. So we need to define certain types here, and that is what is very weird in some or the other sense. So let's first get into what and how we want to be doing this. Okay, so we'll call this LLM config, or let's take a look at litellm first. So they provide the simple completion function here, but we, as you know, we need some. So completion is a function really, which will actually return a like response of some sort. Actually, if we are looking into it, I think we should look into the documentation rather than here. So we don't want things like this. We want the doc string for all of them. Basic usage is this. Um, what I wanted is supported models. No, yeah, LLM Python SDK. Setting API keys. Okay, this makes sense. Get valid models, validate environments, completion token usage. I want something like where we can get completions, right? Setting API keys, base, version. So here you can set API base. What is API base? Oh, base URL. Okay, okay. Then API keys, API version and organization, then API keys. So this is the way you can do it. API key will be set from the model completions. You need the base URL here, and the message is not yet shown here. So check valid key, model, and API key. So if okay, this is a real nice function. If it doesn't have it, it will return false. Nice. Get valid model. This is the list of elements for a user. Get valid models. Open the API key. This I am not sure what is happening, but think we'll give it OpenAI chat completion models and OpenAI text completion models. Get valid models and then use the custom using API endpoint. Okay, this is where we can see the encoder and decoder is coming in, so it will be on the tokenization part. We don't want to do that just yet because we just want to route the API calls right now. Like at least this is the first goal that we want to set. Tokenization comes later on. It is also important. Like if you want to actually get to know and understand how many tokens you are using and consuming, also getting out from the LLM, so that tokenization bit is really important part. Uh, so here they don't actually have. So they do have open router, obviously. I want to understand the completion model. I can't understand that. Okay, this might be a docs thing, right? I want to look at the actual uh, not this docs. I want to developer docs, right? So here what we want to see is the types, mainly router, constants, types. Yeah, Google Gen AI, caching, completion.py. Let's look at this. Chat completion, system message param. Yep, completion request. So here we have a model, the messages is another list of chat completion message params. It could be either of these: system message param or user message param and assistant message param. So it could be like a response from the assistant. Completion function message and completion tool message param. Yeah, these are very subtle things, but you can understand what these are to be meant before you dive into this. So chat completion tool message will have content, role, and tool call ID. So this is the uh, message that LLMs give us back when they want to call specific tools with with the content. And if you see the content part param, and it is somewhere here, content part param. This is text param, which has just text and a type. Right, we were over here. Okay, so this is the thing that we'll call the parameters along with its values. However, there is something difference between, oh, they don't have a difference. A function calling and tool message param. Looks like they don't have any difference because, oh yeah, because it could be either of them, right? It could, the content could have the actual value, so it could be text part param, text and type. So here type could be required reference, which is text type of the content part, required string. So that is a little suspicious. I'm not sure how would this work. Anyways, function calling is something different that we won't cover right now. So messages, so that is one the thing that we want. Temperature timeout top p and stream will ignore for now. Yeah, this is the one more thing that we would add at some point. Streaming, then we have max tokens, presence penalty, logic bias, user logic bias. Is it not same as temperature? Maybe it has something very specific or detailed way to control the uh, probability for logics. I think that is temperature, but logic bias might be something uh, very low level tuning of that. User, what is that? Response format. See tools, yeah, so tools will ignore for now. Tool choice, lock props, logic probabilities, I'm not sure. Top lock props, development ID, functions. Okay, functions and tools. Are these separate? Base URL and API version. Okay. honest model config. Okay, so what we could do now is create a type called completion config. So in here there are quite obvious things that we need. One will be the model. I'll be exposing this, so this could be the string. I don't think we need a JSON here. Maybe we do. Um, okay, so first the model will be there, then will be, let's add for now the temperature. It will be a float, 64 or 32. Let's give it 64 now. This is a little trickery because temperature is optional float. I think the default is 0, so never mind. Then we need the um, messages, so type messages, and will be a struct. I think we are gonna go with list of strings because this is a union of multiple such things, and we don't want to go into some functions and tool callings just yet. We want content, role, and name. Option name for the participant. Content, role, and name. Okay. So first we'll have message. This will have the role and the content. Yep. The name is optional, but still gonna have it as per the standard. And then the chat completion user message is also similar, I see, right? Chat completion. What is different here? Okay, the content is required chat completion content part param. Okay, it has support for both image and text. We can skip that for now, I believe. Okay, that will lead to a lot of um, complexity adding, like moving forward. Yeah, maybe. So, what was the name for this? It was chat completion content part param. So here they had this union of these types. I wonder how we can use uh, how to use union in Golang type struct. I know it doesn't have it, but what is the way to idiomatic way to use that? What int value int string integer string. You can see how ridiculous these things are. ChatGPT without login is a piece of shit. Mm, this we can always check in later. Okay, I think this is pretty much the thing that we wanted from now. API key, oh my god. Base URL obviously. Then API version, I don't think that is quite the right fit. This is the chat completion we are going to use, and we will call it function. We want to be an instance of this. I want to have a completion config. Did I lose connection here? No. The only thing that I'm worried about here is that we need to provide a message here. This would be a single message and will return with single response. Now this is the bulk of operations that we want to be performing here. Response that will just call the API, right? But it's way far from what we are actually expecting. So what we need to do here is the following. And by default will only support open router. So I need to actually hit this API, right? So the docs, if we see, I mean, what would go wrong in using the docs? Using the open router API directly. Yeah, we want to use it directly. So this is what we want to see. This is the endpoint, and that is why we need to now configure the models API. Sorry, not function. It will be a type of provider. Okay, how are we constructing this? This is for. This is not for a model, right? It is for the provider. Open router is a provider, so we can say provider config. It will be a struct, and here we will have completion config, no, list our base URL and uh, mm, API key. That is it, I think. And once that is set, the model will be just a string, right? So we don't need to worry about that. Other concern is the message, how are you gonna parse and provide that into the context. So now you see the problem, because if I open up one more provider, which will, let's say, one different one, whatever, Claude API. So if we see their platform API, which is way to query Claude programmatically using an API. So if we see the developer docs, um, why they have so much things. Yeah, so this, it is similar, but you see here authorization bearer, and here it is XAPI. They also had Anthropic version. Here we don't. Here is a message, is a list of dictionaries with role and content as the variables. Here is, here as well, this is pretty much the same. Okay, now let's see the output. So this is all fine and good. Completion. So here we see successfully as choices. Wait, is it completion or child completion? What is the difference? What is the difference? Model and prompt. Oh, okay. So yeah, that is what I talked about here, right? Where it was, yeah, chat history. This will be chat completions, and there will also be one more one called, just send in the prompt, it will go in the back. Just one way traffic, not one way traffic, but just one short thing. So this is what? And this is API endpoint is different. This is messages. Not sure there are. Let's see the API reference. They have messages. They don't have chat completions. I mean, it could be the same thing, but you see the difference, right? Chat completion is, and if you let's see the output token here, choices, messages, role, content, and refusal. And here we have, hopefully I'm doing it the right way. Content is a list. It will be like a completion because it's also a list. However, it's more citations, text, and type. Here we have messages, and inside of that we have that. So you can see the differences here. This is what we need to cater to for different providers. And now how light LLM would have handled. Let me see how they are handling it. So it should be somewhere in models or providers, I think. So if we see uh, LLMs, maybe, yeah, anthropic.py, you would see something like the other like types mentioned in here. and they would have certain things which are quite common. Content block start, content block tool use. Uh, yeah, that's what they use. And if you see open router, you would see the same thing. Okay, why it is so small? I'm still live, hopefully. Yeah, what I was saying was router. So yeah, you can see they just do it kind of hard-coded way. Maybe there's some better way to do it. I'm not sure, but we'll see. First, I need to support open router first, and then worry about other things. So what we will do here is assume that the structure is same. Assumption is very hard. It's a very risky thing, but we have to start somewhere. What we will do is we will uh, convert this config into an actual HTTP request that we can send to any of the base URL providers. So that thing will be actually handled from the completion config based on its provider. So every completion config should have a provider config as well. So provider config, this will be provider config, and inside of that will be this provider config. Now this might be redundant. This might be redundant, and yeah, that will remain the same. But yeah, that is a trade-off here. Now we will be switching back and forth between completion and provider, because completion is like this now depends on how we want to expose certain fields here. Because if you wanted to have this API key in the completion config, then it will be very easy for the user to just provide the API key and just get done with it. But now we have this abstraction of provider config that will actually require that. Uh, I will not go this, I will just call API. So there will be a configuration config, and this will actually call the API in itself. We need to return obviously certain things, so it will be an HTTP response. Hopefully that is not imported. And here just do a basic sanity checks for if model is not there. No, that is not how we are supposed to do it. Return nil, or yeah. Oh, this is a little confusing. Let's do, you know what it is? Yes. Return nil, and the error would be, what will be the dot error? Why is it complaining again and again? What is the issue? Nothing is the issue here. Let's get back. Um, so you see this, the entire body. We need to kind of marshal it in certain way. And that is the tricky part, because we have this way and we don't want everything to be marshaled here. So what I can do for the time being is, let's say we create another type. This will be open router body. This will be a struct, and we need a body which will have all of the things, model, and then yeah, messages. How does this model know that? That is pretty amazing. Type open router response structure. Yep. This is, yeah, this is for the most part we need that. We can abstract this away later on, but for now it's fine. It looks weird, I know, but bear with it for a while. New request from this. Yeah, we cannot have this in different line. Sorry, Python me, I cannot comprehend that error message. And still it's complaining. Oh, it was because of this, not that. Okay. Uh, let's go with that for now. And instead of nil, we can have body. We cannot use body, that, yeah, I know that. Uh, How are we supposed to do this? I guess forgot about it. Okay. Um, this looks correct, right? Yeah, I'm again audible. Why not? Hello? Yeah, that looks good. So I was wondering how to do a JSON marshalling. Bytes.new buffer. Into the JSON string that we want to have. So it could be body str. And let's just return no a response. Oh, this will be a little tricky. Response. symbols go lines of it, like symbols go lines of it, like you create a request template and then you create a request template and then send a request with the do function, and this will get an item. We will simply call the response with that. So hopefully that will look like that, and that should be like it. Let's see. Here we should have a configuration. Let's do tab completions for now. Let's do tab completions for now. Uh, uh, but I'm not sure about this. It won't completion config dot completions. So this is what we are calling in. Let's not print it directly. Let's store it somewhere. This is strawberry. Oh yeah, that is a good question. How many are in Hello World? Um, let's test it. It will fail for sure, but we have somewhere to be going. Um, I will usually test 3 models. Let's test out this one. Uh, in here, and I need to get this is the information. Right. Maybe this could be improved a little bit. I'll just set the API keys from here. I have to just do a little thing. Let's grab the keys. Create an API key. Let's call it open router test Golang. I have the keys. I'll copy it. So I have the API keys. I'll open new shell. I'll create a .env. I'll paste this one as well as set it in export open router API key as this. I think we are good. Yeah, so here it has been set it. We have created that API key here, and let me now use this endpoint, use this API to query that. So go run main.go. We'll have errors, obviously messages are required. Okay, so we call the API, messages are nil. Okay, messages are nil. How the messages are nil? Oh, we need not added the messages, my bad. So we need to do what? Hmm? We need to add it somewhere, right? Right. Valid character looking for beginning of value. Interesting. We have not printed out anywhere the actual API call, so let's debug it. I think the issue might be in here.